But the difficulty is we have constructed cultures of parts. We have constructed a world of consumerism where the thing identifies my beingness. We have constructed a culture where if you're number one, you're important and you'll succeed. We have not constructed a world of wholes within wholes, of interconnected parts. And that puts us really, in a sense, in tension with the natural world. Because nature, it does work as interdependent and interconnected. One has only to look at the beauty of the natural world to recognize that. And that what we are saying is that every whole has its intrinsic worth as part of a larger whole. Everything that exists is not subsumed in the whole. It finds its place in the whole as the unique part that it is. And that is the dialectic of parts and wholes. So, as Paul Dirac once said, that we are so connected to this cosmic wholeness that there is no action of ours that doesn't have an impact on the cosmos itself. That if you were to pick a flower on Earth, you will move the farthest star. But we can only know that if we have a katolikos, a consciousness of that whole. That every action has not only just a reaction, but a creative action. We are either creating the whole or deconstructing it by the way we choose. So, again, as Albert recognized, he said, a human being is part of a whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. We experience ourselves as something separate from the rest, but he said this is a kind of optical delusion of one's consciousness. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion. And therefore embracing all creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. And this is the dual roles of consciousness and love. So I do find ourselves today, as we're in this great transition of religion, we are living between cosmologies and worldviews. We are still partial Newtonians. By that I mean we do have pretty much closed systems. Here's my world, here's my job, here's what I do. A closed system functions like a box, right? Like a black box. I put work into the energy into the system, it's used up, no more energy put in, the system will die out. A post-Einsteinian world is an open system. An open system is a system that's far from equilibrium, right? Because the system is open to the environment. Now, when I was growing up, the whole key was equilibrium, right? You have to strive for equilibrium. Now you have to strive for chaos, right? Because chaos is good. Because what we're saying in an open system is that it's open to the environment, right? It's never in equilibrium, right? It's always in this fluctuating state, but it does have a rhythm to it. But in an open system, new things can happen. New things happen spontaneously within the system, and they can be drawn into new patterns because the system now is open to the larger whole. So a Newtonian system is a top-down system, the hierarchy, right? We begin with the Pope and we work our way down, right? We begin with the president, we work our way down. A post-Einsteinian system is bottoms up. How are we entangled on this fundamental level of life? And how do we organize our fields? So a Newtonian system is maintaining order. And you know what? The systems aren't working anymore. The Newtonian systems are slipping out from under our grasp. Because a post-Einsteinian world says it's not about maintaining order, it's about greater complexity. And therefore, Newtonians will maintain hierarchy. Here's your place on the ladder. Here's your role. Here's your job, right? Do not try to ascend or descend. Just stay where you are. A post-Einsteinian world says, no, you're a whole that's part of a larger whole. Expand your wholeness. Newton's about control. Einstein's world, participation. Newton's world is about goals, right? What are our goals? I used to have a dean who would say, give me your goals, right? Your 5 goals, your 5 objectives. Whereas an Einsteinian world is not so much about goals. It's about possibilities. What are the realm of possibilities now before us? So a Newtonian world is about me, the individual, or you. A post-Einsteinian world is a we. The me turns into a we in an entangled universe. And therefore, a Newtonian world is about mechanism. Let's keep things as they are. I can tell you a few systems that want to work like this, right? It's always been this way. It's always been this way. It will always be this way. An Einsteinian world says, really? What world have you been in? You know, it's never always been this way, and it will not always be this way. So welcome to the world of holistic change. And that brings us to the world of evolution. And evolution, you know, is still one of those words culturally that leaves people with an edginess, you know. The whole trial over teaching evolution in public school, that if we teach evolution, we have to teach creationism and intelligent design. You know, it's just, all we're just saying very simply, it's descriptive of how nature changes. I mean, little Charles Darwin, you know, who did not, by the way, he only used that word once in his Origin of the Species, but the guy has been credited with it ever since. You know, he basically wanted to know, how do we get to this rich, diverse species? That was the question. You know, how do we have so many varieties of flowers and little ants and little jumping grasshoppers? And so evolution is the word that means unfolding, that nature unfolds according to certain mechanisms within nature that he might have described as natural selection. Hey, life flourishes and it will choose the best ways to keep going. Adaptation. Here's my environment. My environment shifts. Gee, I guess I better adapt or I'm going to wither. You know, and some say struggle for survival, but we're knowing now that that's not so true. That cooperation in nature is actually more prevalent. But, you know, today, I once had someone visit me, and she said to me, what are you working on? And I said, well, I'm working on evolution and Christianity. She said, oh, evolution, that's just a theory. And I said, well, no. I said, it's more than a theory. I said, it's the best description of how life has come to its rich diversity. She said, no, well, she said, God created Adam and Eve fully formed and placed them here on earth less than 10,000 years ago. And I said, no, that's just a story. And that was, you know, told in its time to try to understand things. She insisted that indeed was what happened. And you can go to Kentucky and find Noah's Ark now fully built and probably find Adam and Eve there as well. All we're just saying is nature is dynamic, it changes, and nature works by process, right? Not so mechanistic. And I think there is, you know, the Hindus have that term lila. There's a playfulness in nature. Nature will test out the environment, you know, because, you know, this is so simple. Life flourishes unto more life. Life likes to like life. You know, and you don't have to be like a scientist or a PhD to figure this out, that, you know, nature kind of is open to what will enhance the flourishing of life, including death, right? Including the withering of leaves and the dying of seeds and trees, so that more life can flourish. And so here we are in this, you might say, this encyclopedia of evolution. Now, for those of you who are bibliophiles, if you would think of Big Bang cosmic life in terms of 30 volumes, each volume having 450 pages, and each page 1,000,000 years. Volume 1 is the Big Bang. Volume 21 is our Earth. Volume 29, the Cambrian period. That's when we get to those gigantic brontosaurus things. And in volume 30, the dinosaurs are nearer to us than we think. They go extinct on page 385. Now, I don't know about you, but I was in the Pittsburgh airport one time coming down the elevator, and they had the skeleton of a brontosaurus. I thought, there's no way I'm related to this thing, you know. It's a huge thing. Anyway, mammals appear on page 390, and here we are, last volume, volume 30. Last line, page 450, last line, last two words. Human beings. And guess what? No period. No period, right? We're not the end of the story. There's no like afterword or, conclusion. We are evolution. The whole story now is our story. And this is hard for us to get our heads around, but we are really newbies in the universe. We're sort of like, in infant care. If we look at the universe as a single day, this might help us. January 1st, or rather, a single calendar year. January 1st, the Big Bang. We just finished December. Here we are in the 23 hours, 59 minutes, 58 seconds, the modern world is born. And 23 hours, 59 minutes, 59.9 minutes, the modern human person is born. Religion is born with us, in a sense, as it comes to consciousness. Christianity, by the way, was born, if we're born in the last month, Christianity was born around this morning, around 11 a.m. We talk as this is an ancient religion, it's all old, all behind us, and in terms of cosmic history, it is just beginning. So Teilhard thought that evolution is a process where life complexifies, that given sufficient amount of time, that things come together, they converge, and, at critical points, qualitative differences emerge. And so the three elements of evolution are chance, there's randomness in nature, lawfulness, and deep time. Time here is a factor because it takes long amount of time for things to transform and to change into new species. Now, all of this is speeding up for us today, but we'll hold on to that tomorrow when we talk about technology. But what we begin to realize with evolution, and this comes as a jolt to the religious consciousness, nature is marked by change. Well, is that new to us? Yes and no, because there's something about us that still thinks it's always been this way. It will always be this way. And our evolution story says, no, it has not always been this way, and it will not always be this way, because nature is marked by emergence. Given sufficient conditions, new things will happen. Emergence is part of evolution. In other words, there's novelty in nature. Nature can do new things and gives rise to new things, and it's irreducible novelty. We don't go backwards. The time factor of evolution is irreversible as far as we know. That means that nature is a complex of interacting forces that are constantly working together and contribute to the change of unfolding life. So, again, as Teilhard says, the 3 C's of evolution. Convergence, not so much in biological convergence, but as a description of a fundamental law of attraction. There's things that keep drawing together in a way that we complexify. Complexification means the degrees of relatedness. And as we come together in more degrees of relationship, consciousness is rising. And so what Teilhard said is evolution is not background to the story. So when people ask me, do you believe in evolution? I said, evolution is not a belief system. It's the best description of our emergence. So we are not in evolution, we are evolution. In fact, we are the cosmos now in evolution on a level of consciousness. And just to give a little background to this, the cyanobacteria, about 3.8 billion years ago, may be our earliest cousins. And, and here we are today. that we have evolved, over time. Now, I don't know about you, but I grew up in New Jersey, where I do remember we had telephones on the wall. Now, you tell a 20-year-old about a phone on the wall, they're like, wow, really? It had a cord to it? Yep. I remember when AT&T was coming out with the first cell phone, and someone said to me, do you know they're making now a phone you'll be able to carry in your hands? I said, you're kidding. That seems impossible. Sure enough, in the 70s came out this huge thing, it was this big, and that was, really the coolest thing possible. Then someone said to me, you're not going to believe this, but they're predicting that we'll be able to carry around like a computer one day in the palm of our hand. I said, that's outrageous. Could you imagine carrying around, this is when computers were just coming out. And here we are. Not even, 30, 40 years later, technology is evolving us exponentially at a breathless pace we can't even keep up with. And what we're saying is we have the capacity to imagine something new and to create it. And but what we do know is that half the population is still evolving at a slower rate. And that's why we have a very long cosmic history before us. I think if I were to maybe just emphasize something here is that we are not ready-made facts. I think this is important for us to get our heads around. That we are the outflow of billions of years of evolution. That we belong to a cosmogenesis even before we are part of a biogenesis. And that, there is a constant increase in the complexity of organism that continues to emerge with increased consciousness. And so, again, I think a Newtonian mind says, this is a human person, and we've got to maintain ourselves. A post-Einsteinian world says, no, we are emergent as human persons, but we're becoming something. And the question is, what are we becoming? So I think it's important for us to recognize that evolution is an unfinished process. We are unfinished creatures. Religion is unfinished. Church is unfinished. God is unfinished. And this strikes us as, really? Are you sure? And I'm like, well, please take a look at your cosmic history. And what we are saying is that nature evolves, moves towards something new on three fundamental pillars. Creativity. The power of creativity in nature is endless. It's abounding. Novelty. Nature loves to do new things. And future. And that, I think, is where religion has sort of hung up its hat, so to speak. And the very things that evolve us, institutional religions have said, oh, no. We have to keep everything because God made it this way, right? God ordained it this way. And our task is to maintain it. And I thought, what God are you praying to? Because the God of this cosmos says, oh, no, I love new things, and I love creativity. So what we begin to realize, if we ask, what does it mean to be a cosmic beings in evolution? I think we have to realize that we are not only unfinished, we're incomplete, right? And therefore, we are works in progress. We are being created. We talk about creation as if it's a past event, but creation is an ongoing relationship with God, if we place God at the heart of this process. So we are being created. Life is being created. And therefore, we are being created towards something new. And the question of what is it will become in this newness is a question of our participation or lack of. Because what we are saying is life evolves by creative power. And I think we have left out or that element of creative power in the place of religion in the cosmos. Even the medievalists had a better sense of that. But modern people, for some odd reason, fell into this kind of Newtonian notion of religion, left creativity out of it, and it's become very staid and disconnected. And so what we realize is that we are integrally part of evolution in that we rise from it. But we have the capacity to know what we know. We are Homo sapiens sapiens. We can reflect on the very cosmos that has given birth to us. Now, if that isn't radically amazing, I don't know what is. So here we are. We're no longer center of the cosmos, but we are, in a sense, the arrow. We're the tip. We're the edge. And I think this is where, you might say, the path is diverging in the cosmos, because Google gets it. Google mania gets the fact that we're on the edge of evolution and that we can create ourselves towards something new. Whereas religious people are like, oh, well, God has made us. All we have to do is love, pay, pray, and obey, and we're going up above. And Teilhard says, no, get a grip. Get a grip on your cosmic history, because how we choose and what we choose will affect the whole cosmos. So this is where Teilhard says, evolution, if it really is grounded in the fundamental stuff of energy life, then evolution really runs on the primacy of consciousness. And again, I think, you wouldn't have to look far to realize that the internet has shifted our level of consciousness. I mean, I grew up in this little suburb in New Jersey. I don't think I ever heard of a Muslim or a Hindu. I lived in an Italian-American neighborhood, and our most, wow thing was my next-door neighbor was Scottish Protestant. I was like, wow, that's great, That's really cool. Now, now I have a consciousness of a new whole that mass communication, mass media, travel has brought us together in a way that is unprecedented in the whole history of evolution. So what Teilhard said is evolution is this rise of consciousness, but I want to begin to explore briefly, and you can just let me know when we need to take a break, because I'll just do this little part and then I'll stop. Consciousness as something that is not particular to the human, but that is fundamental to the whole of cosmic life. So evolution, I include this slide to show that evolution, cosmic evolution into biological evolution, is the rise of consciousness. And so what we are saying is that all life has, even in the most fundamental levels, some level of consciousness to it. So we might rewrite Genesis. In the beginning was the Word. In the beginning was consciousness. And maybe that Word of God, that expression of God, that love of God is the very mind awareness of divinity, already entangled with the possibility of otherness. And so and here I follow Dano Zohar in her understanding of quantum consciousness. Shortly after the Big Bang, there was this kind of space-time and vacuum. Vacuum not as absence of stuff, but as this sea of material, a field of fields, so to speak, that had sort of a dense sea of particles in it. And so the whole beginning of the Big Bang could be, I know recently we discovered the Higgs boson, but that boson is like a field, a particle field. And so what we are saying is that the beginning of life is in this wave-particle duality, where the flow or the overlapping of waves is the flow of information or communication. So that we can say that consciousness is the pattern of active relationship, or the wave side of wave-particle duality. You can think of this in our own lives. Each one of us is sort of like a wave particle. You know, the wave-particle duality is a metaphor for human life. We are particle in the particularity of our personality, but that particularity of personality expresses itself in the wave of our relationality, right? And so that's the same thing from the very beginning. Consciousness as that communication or flow of information across fields of particles. So what we are saying is that the Big Bang may have emerged out of quantum wholeness and therefore quantum consciousness. That life may begin with consciousness and wholeness. So here's the huge, huge shift, which I don't think really we have gotten our heads around. Descartes separated mind from matter. We created a 20th century of mind separated from matter. Knowledge as power. Knowledge as the will to succeed. But what quantum consciousness says to us, mind is part and parcel of matter. Mind matters. And therefore, James Jean in the 1950s said the universe looks more like a great thought than a great machine. Mind no longer appears like an accident. You know, all of a sudden we have matter and then all of a sudden we have mind. He says, no, mind may be the creator and governor of the realm of matter. Rather than matter giving rise to mind, mind gives rise to the shape of matter. And so he says the quantum phenomenon makes it possible to propose that the background of the universe is mind-like. Or as Freeman Dyson asked, did the universe know we were coming? Now here's the thing, because our consciousness has emerged from this wholeness and continues to be part of it, even though we may be unconscious that our consciousness is part of the whole, then what accounts for the human mind is active in the universe. And that's why I think centering prayer and meditation may be the most fundamental practice towards cosmic wholeness up ahead. It's reconnecting the mind with the cosmic whole, matter itself. Henry Stapp, a physicist, went so far to say that our human thoughts are linked to nature by non-local connections, that what a person chooses to do or think in one region seems to affect what is true elsewhere in the universe. If mind is part and parcel of matter, and thoughts are integral to mind, then what we think and how we think impacts the material universe. Now think about that one. How many times we would think to ourselves, oh, I really can't stand that person, what we would say, two-faced, right? You appear nice, in the meantime you're thinking, what a jerk, Now what we are saying is that thought actually has its effects in physical reality. And and so it is important to come to awareness that our thoughts, first of all, are not private. Our thoughts are as public as the cosmos itself. Second, our thoughts do something. That our thoughts can change the world, which is why prayer can change, it can transform materiality, human persons, the world itself. And so what we are saying is, in and through our minds, we are part of an undivided whole that is our home, the cosmos. And I think Church of Conscious Harmony is right on the cutting edge towards, you might say, forming a new wholeness up ahead, because I see a lot of the culture, we are numbed in our consciousness. I think we have developed a culture of numbness. And when I say consumerism, I don't mean material things themselves. Truthfully, I love things. But it's the ism of possession, that the things define who I am, that when I get consumerism actually is supplanting religion, that I find my identity, my desires, my sense for ultimacy in the ism of the consumer product, and that numbs my mindfulness, that I'm really part of something so much more than myself. And when I become preoccupied by things, my mind that's part of the whole now is disconnected from the whole. And so I think we have work to do in sort of retrieving consciousness from the enslavement of sheer materiality and to place it back into the energy of materiality, into the energy where the beauty of material things is in the harmony, right, of the whole, the diversity of life in its rich diverseness in the unity of wholeness. I want to maybe just touch on one thing that Teilhard recognized, and I think this is really important for us. And it's on a slide I showed before. Teilhard spoke of everything that exists having a withinness and a withoutness. Everything that exists has two dimensions to it. The withinness, what we might call interiority, he said, is at the basis of what he called a level of attraction. There is this center-to-center attraction. People are attracted to other people. In nature, things are attracted, elements, leaves are attracted to leaves. And so this undying law of attraction in nature that he will eventually name as love. Not just the good seeking the good, but the ultimate personal good that seeks to unite with the other. Love goes out of itself to be for the other, to transform the other. But he said this energy of attraction has another dimension to it. And that is the energy of transcendence. Now, one does not have to be a Teilhardian to recognize that when you fall in love, your awareness changes, right? Love shifts our consciousness. Someone falls in love and they begin to see the world in a new way. They begin to act nice. They see beauty where they didn't see beauty before. So love and consciousness are twin poles of one core energy that has a withinness and a withoutness. We are drawn together, and as we come together, we're transcending in that unity to a new awareness. And so what Teilhard did is he saw this love-conscious energy as fundamental of all cosmic life. He says love is the most universal, the most tremendous, and the most mysterious of cosmic forces. Now, this is really important because what he's getting at here is a philosophical shift in understanding root reality. Now, this doesn't make, in our everyday world, we don't go around thinking about this. But most of our lives are built on a philosophy of being that's Aristotelian and Newtonian. Excuse me, it's the I being, and therefore we don't have a root reality of deep relationality. And that's what he's getting at. When he says love is the most tremendous and mysterious cosmic forces, Teilhard is saying that the root reality of all existence is relationship, not self-subsistent being. And so Philip Hefner asks, can we entertain the idea that love is rooted in the fundamental nature of reality itself, including the reality we call nature? That nature is grounded in love in its very beingness. This idea is not entirely new. Plato had a similar idea when he called it the good. And what we're saying is that highest good is deeply personal, deeply centered, deeply transformative. So Teilhard develops what we might call the philosophy of love. And I would think this is really important because how we understand, we have an implicit understanding of being. We always do. Excuse me, when we... cough drops, or... They're very mild. They're very good. That philosophy of love, it's like this. When you wake up in the morning, everyone wakes up with a cosmology and a metaphysics. But we don't exactly greet one another that way. You know, good morning, what's your cosmology this morning and what's your metaphysics? You know, it's how we act toward one another. It's our whole being, our space, it's you again, you know, or please don't bother me. You know, I'm like, I can't talk to anyone right now. And that's okay. I mean, we do need our space sometimes. But there's something about our wakingness and our going aroundness, how we go to the mall, how we get gas at the gas station, how we stand in line, you know, at the supermarket. All of this flows from our cosmology and our metaphysics. And what Teilhard is saying is that nature is based on a root reality of love, relationality. And this, if we could get our heads around this, is a radical shift from the ancient Greek world that Aristotle conceived and Thomas Aquinas, you know, built on. Because what we are saying here, it is not me and then you. It's actually us and then me and you. Union precedes being. That if the root reality is love, then relationship is the most apt description of existence itself, which means there's no I before a we. We exist, and out of that we-ness, I exist in my unique personality, because, as Teilhard would say, it's the very core personality. Union differentiates. The more I'm in union with another, the more I am truly who I am, because it's the basis of who I am that is the basis of union itself. Now, it's as if we were to develop a consciousness of a we-ness before a me-ness. That's a radical cultural shift. But that's exactly what he's saying. Cosmic life is intrinsically communal. I mean, there's no tree that goes, you know, or tree or a flower that says, hey, who the heck needs you? You know, I was here first. And I'm going to just plant my roots and I'm going to spread as far as wide as possible. It is rather that nature is working always in this kind of cooperative we-ness. And then trees grow to be trees and flowers, and they're working happily together until humans come along. But what we're saying is that the universe is thoroughly relational and in the framework of love. And this strikes us funny because we're pretty sure love is an emotion. Love is a sentiment. Love is something you fall in and out of. Love is the deepest good that recognizes the good of another. Love is that deep desire within us to belong to something beyond ourselves. We are rooted in love. And that's why we can never find our happiness and peace completely self-absorbed. We can only find it in another. You have made us for yourself, O God, Augustine said, and we are restless until we rest in you. That love is our core relationality means that our fulfillment can only be in love, in relationship. And so love as a cosmological force means that, as Teilhard said, this force of love energy is present from the Big Bang but indistinguishable from molecular forces. It's as if physicists were to speak of quarks, leptons, and love particles. Right? And that's exactly right. We go, oh my goodness, love particles, are you kidding? And we're like, no, that's our root reality, you know? And that's the thing. We have so superficialized love, we can't take it seriously as our fundamental root reality. And yet what Teilhard says, the physical structure of the universe is love. This is not just a cosmos or a cosmogenesis, or a Big Bang universe. This is a love, we need a new word, an amorizing universe. This is amorgenesis. This is love unfolding unto fullness. And that's why Teilhard begins to ask, what holds the whole together? Because when science begins to study things, as it dwindles down, it goes more and more into these particularities. These are leptons, these are quarks, these are field energies. And so no one thing seems to be able to have the power of coherence, that which can hold the whole together. And that's why Teilhard begins to ask the question, who will give evolution its own God? And I read that and I said, well, I'll give it a try. Here we are. That's because I'm from New Jersey and we do all these crazy things. Now, I'm going to just maybe conclude on this question this morning, because it's a big question we need to begin to engage carefully. We have, for too long, in some ways we have devised a notion of God. We've projected onto this word God what we think God should be. And yet, nature is probably our best teacher of God, as well as our own inner world of nature. And so I do think we need to begin to deconstruct and reconstruct a new understanding of God, a God who is a living God, right? Otherwise, we have a relic of God, or we have some sort of past notion of God. I think the old God doesn't compute anymore. Younger generations, they're looking for a living God, but they can't seem to find this God in institutional religions, because we insist on holding on to old gods in old cosmoses. And so we need to begin to say, well, who is the God? What is God? What is God that holds this whole together? And maybe that's a question for us, as we take this break this morning. Not just who is God, but what is God for you? What is this power of divinity? And does this power of divinity dwell at the heart of an expanding universe? And what is this God doing at the heart of an expanding universe? And where are we in this unfolding story? So it's an exciting journey, a cosmic journey. And maybe we'll take, is that right? We'll take a little lunch. It's lunchtime. Why don't we just take a break, a lunch break? And I would like in the afternoon to begin with some discussion, on some of these ideas. And then we will sort of work our way into then what is God in a world of evolution? And then what does this mean in terms of the Christ for us? Thank you, and thank you for putting up with my cough drop dilemma.